Alexander Thomas would have been 24 years old today. He'd be a paramedic like he wanted to be as a child so that he could help people. But 6 months after completing kindergarten, Alexander ate a hamburger contaminated with E. coli. Between the 4 days he began to experience symptoms, stomach cramps escalated to tremors and delusions, seizures, and kidney failure. As his organs shut down one after another, his parents and doctors stood by, powerless to stop the bacteria's ravages on his little body. He whispered his last words to his mother, "Don't worry," and blew one final kiss to his father before slipping into a coma and dying. And when his parents tried to fulfill his last wish to help people by donating his organs, they found that the bacteria had destroyed all of them and liquefied portions of his brain. All this happened from a hamburger, something you might have had for lunch yesterday. While recent decades have shown an overall improvement in food safety in the late 2000s, the recent years are marked with a deluge of foodborne illnesses. In 2009, the Fairbank Farms in Asheville, New York, recalled over 500,000 pounds of ground beef after 2 people died and 28 became ill, 3 of whom later developed kidney failure. The beef was found to be contaminated with E. coli, a potentially deadly bacteria. E. coli is primarily found in the guts of livestock animal, and contamination is usually attributed to cattle. Symptoms of infection include severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, fever, and vomiting. While most people get better within a week, some can be severe and even life-threatening, with 5 to 10% of cases developing a potentially fatal complication known as hemolytic uremic syndrome. August of last year saw one of the biggest recalls in recent history, when over 500 million eggs were recalled due to salmonella contamination. Salmonella is another common pathogen attributed to foodborne illness, resulting in similar E. coli symptoms. In more severe cases, the infection may spread to the bloodstream and cause death as well. Laura Neergard of the Chicago Tribune wrote in January of 2008 the potential long-term side effects of foodborne illnesses. Victims of E. coli, salmonella, or other foodborne illnesses may see further health issues 10 or 20 years down the road, ranging from high blood pressure, kidney failure, arthritis, or even paralysis. These incidences of contaminated food are merely ripples in the wave of food recalls that have occurred recently in the United States. As you can see, more than 2,500 recalls of food products have occurred in the country in the past year, with Pennsylvania having 51 to 60 alone. In December of 2010, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimated that each year, roughly 3,000 people die from foodborne illnesses, while at least 48 million are sickened. This means that on average, every day 12 people in America will die, while 1 in 6 Americans will fall ill. While everyone is susceptible to these illnesses, they are especially deadly for the elderly, the young, and those with already compromised immune systems. However, as college students, this issue is also pertinent to us because increased exposure due to group living greatly increases our risk of eating contaminated food. As food is made by bulk in our campus dining halls, 1 egg can potentially taint a whole batch of scrambled eggs or another dish if cooked improperly. Sandra Young from CNN in 2009 quoted Dr. Robert Tokes, the Deputy Director of the CDC Division of Foodborne Bacterial and Mycotic Diseases, as saying that food safety progress has plateaued. This indicates further measures are needed to prevent future illness. Given the severity of this situation, what can be done? What can we possibly do to prevent the spread of foodborne illnesses? During a time when so much of our food is mass-produced, it can be difficult to inspect every bite we put into our mouths. There are, however, certain actions we can take to protect ourselves from the effects of contaminated food and demand better food conditions in production. First, the most important step to take is prevention. When cooking food, be sure to wash, separate, and cook foods thoroughly, especially meat, to kill any lingering bacteria. When working with meat, raw eggs, or poultry, be sure to wash hands with soap and water in order to get rid of potential bacteria, because it can be so easy to cross-contaminate everything in your kitchen. And after eating, promptly refrigerate your leftovers, as bacteria quickly grow in warm and room temperature environments. This may seem like common sense, but avoid eating or drinking anything containing raw eggs. This includes that little taste of cookie dough you might be baking. You also might not realize it, but certain recipes for foods, such as chocolate mousse and orange julius, call for uncooked eggs to give froth. And lastly, be sure to cook meat and poultry thoroughly, especially if you're served undercooked meat in a restaurant. You don't know how long that meat might have been sitting out or what conditions it was stored in, so it's best to send it back into the kitchen if it's undercooked. While these steps may aid in preventing Salmonella, E. coli, and other bacterial infections for you and those around you, there are also steps you can take to make a bigger impact nationwide. The organization STOP, Safe Tables Are Priority, is America's voice for safe food. The national nonprofit public health organization seeks to prevent illness and death by food-based pathogens by advocating public policy, building public awareness, and supporting victims of foodborne illnesses. By joining STOP, you can stay updated on current news regarding important pending legislation and recall information. While it is obviously impossible to completely eliminate the risk of infectious bacteria in food, taking these steps while preparing food and being cognizant of what we choose to eat and how it is prepared can greatly reduce the risk of exposure to contaminated food products. In addition, while a large part of STOP's mission is simply to raise public awareness about contaminated food issues, as a public policy advocator, it has also achieved visible results. Notable reforms include their movement in introducing microbial testing and zero tolerance for pathogen in school lunch meat, and launching mandatory pasteurization for all bulk juices. STOP has also worked to introduce bills relating to food safety issues and worked with the CDC's Food Safe School Coalition to distribute video and food safety kits to schools nationwide. And in a 2010 letter to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand urged Secretary Tom Vilsack to regard STOP's petition to include E. coli as an adulterant in meat. So by joining STOP, you won't simply be joining an organization that sends you flyers every month. STOP will keep you updated on recalls on contaminated food outbreaks, which is helpful in itself, but you will also be informed on current new and policy issues that you may not have heard about. You can help STOP continue their mission in keeping our tables safe by donating money, or if you want to become more actively involved, you can help push relevant legislation through Congress by calling your representatives and telling them that you support the bill. By taking these actions, you can support both your individual health and improving the overall food safety in America. It's clear that there's been an overwhelming number of contaminated food outbreaks in the last few years. As Dr. Robert Toke said, there's been a plateau of progression in the development of food safety. But we cannot allow this standstill to sigh and slump in defeat. As consumers, it is up to us to protect ourselves where food manufacturers cannot. Taking the necessary steps to ensuring proper food preparation and consumption, as well as getting involved in public policy advocate groups like Safe Tables Are Priority, can make a difference both individually and nationwide. So the next time you're about to think about just eating that slightly bloody hamburger, remember Alex's story. Remember what you can do as a consumer.